Dear teachers, educators, and anyone that is interested in education, welcome to the podcast AI Perspectives. My name is Matt, and for the past 7 years, I've been working as educational consultant, trainer, and teacher of skill courses at Erasmus University Rotterdam. And for longer than I'm willing to admit, I've been avoiding the topic of AI, especially use of AI in education. But that is no longer. Join me in this podcast series as we explore the role of AI in education, specifically in theme of writing, and we're going to explore it with the different perspectives. Today's perspective will be that of a student. I have a special guest here today with me, Gwen Sterk, that is a student of Pedagogical Sciences at Erasmus University Rotterdam. And today, she's going to help us to dive into the student mind when it comes to use of AI. Welcome, Gwen. How are you doing today?
Thank you. I'm doing good. How are you?
Great. Excited to hear more about your experience and perspectives. Before we dive into the topic of AI, I would like to ask you a question, more like a general question about writing. Are you a person that likes to write, or do you find writing something that you need to force yourself, something that you struggle with?
Well, to be honest, I think I need to force myself to it. I'm not like a natural creative writer, to be honest. Like as a kid, I wasn't the person who liked to write my own stories or anything. I started writing when I was in university or in high school, like an assignment. Yeah. And are you a writer?
Yeah, I think I can relate to that quite a lot. That I like to more think, but when it comes to putting things in words, I always struggled. So that's why I also find the connection to that when it comes to AI quite fascinating. And you are actually right now in the process of writing your thesis. And spoiler alert, you are using AI, and even your supervisor is supporting the use of AI. But before we get to that, I would like to go back to time in November 2022. ChatGPT came and made a big splash. Suddenly, the generative AI was everywhere. How did you react when you first time used ChatGPT?
Well, to be honest, looking back at 2022, it's not even that long ago.
Yeah.
But me personally, I cannot even remember the first time I used AI. And I think based on that, I can just see it as a gradually increase of use. It just gradually became part of my studies, if I may say. And by using it more and more in my studies, it also became a tool for my studies. So I cannot really refer back to boom.
There was more like a gradual. AI. But was there maybe a moment where you realized that, this is very useful for my studies? I can use this for like writing notes or essays or thesis.
Yeah, there was a moment, especially when I learned how to use it, for example, for providing feedback and like when I saw what it could do, like providing human-like text, etc. But yeah, that's it. It's not a special story for me. Like, whoa, there it was. But maybe it was for you. That I hear some people that were like, whoa, I was shocked when I was there.
Yeah, well, to be honest, I was like, oh, that's cool. And then I forgot about it until it came up much later on. So I saw potential, but it didn't make a click for me right away.
Yeah.
I'm curious, did you have any concerns or were you skeptical when you were using AI in the beginning, or how did you experience it?
Concerns. I think in the beginning, I didn't have a lot of concerns because where I was using it for in the beginning was just looking up information. And I think also because it was quite new, people did not know where all the information for ChatGPT came from. Yeah. Well, to be honest, I didn't know.
It looked good, so it's probably solved, yeah.
Yeah, and now we know that there is like the possibility for AI to produce hallucinations, like just misleading or information that's not true. And I think nowadays I'm more aware of that can happen. So I also need to keep that in mind. And that's my biggest concern. When I look something up, I always check if it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it sometimes looks like, the AI, whatever AI tool you use, it seems very confident, right? This is the right output, but is it really true?
Yeah, he can formulate the sentences in a way that you're going to believe it.
From your perspective, how did the teachers adapt it to these new changes in students using Gen AI in their work in the education?
Well, in the beginning, I think there were quite some concerns or they were very hesitating in using ChatGPT. So they were scared of, I think, over-reliance or a loss of some skills that students need to acquire during their studies. For example, writing, what's going to happen to the writing of students when we're going to use ChatGPT or another AI tool?
Yeah, will they lose the ability to write? Actually,
yeah.
Right?
And I think they were scared of that in the beginning, but now I think they're more supportive of using the AI because I also see that in other courses that we had. And for example, now in my thesis, they just say you are allowed to use AI. You just need to know how to use it responsibly and ethically, in an ethical way.
Yeah, I think let's move to your thesis. I'm very curious, as right now you're in writing, your final part of writing your thesis. So what role did AI play in writing your thesis? Maybe before you answer, the thing that comes to my mind, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that if I was a student and I have AI, I'll be like, oh, hey, AI, write me the thesis on this topic. Here are the information. Pew, and you have a thesis, and then you just correct it. I assume this is not how you did it.
No.
How did you approach it?
I think I used ChatGPT for... Okay, I have different ways of using ChatGPT during my thesis, but some main things I use it for is, for example, I ask it to rewrite sentences. So what I mainly do is I read the literature. I always write down on paper my ideas. So I always make
with hands on paper. Okay.
I always make an outline of my alinea on paper. That's just to visualize it for myself. Yeah. It's very messy, but then I just have an idea. Okay, this is what the alinea is going to be about. This is what I want to say. And then roughly, I'm going to give ChatGPT a sentence. But sometimes my sentence is that complex that I'm like, just need to be in one sentence, but I just don't know how to do it. Then I give ChatGPT a rough sentence with my general idea. And then I ask him, can you give me 5 options to write this sentence correctly in British English? And then I look through the options, but I always mix up the options of ChatGPT, and I always evaluate by myself, okay, that's a nice word to use, or oh yeah, that's also a nice way of writing it down. And then I just combine everything kind of. I never copy paste, but maybe that's also a weird thing to do.
So fully copy paste part of the text.
I don't like that because I'm no, I would not write it down like that. You know what I mean? You always need to mix it up a bit, and then it can help you to make a clear sentence of a complex thing you want to say. And also a funny thing that I use it for is, for example, I have an alinea, but I'm doubting because when you're writing a thesis, maybe you know that from when you were a student, you're kind of became an expert on your topic. You can fall over such small things that sometimes even a reader wouldn't even notice. And then I give ChatGPT my whole alinea, and then I'm going to ask him, okay, ChatGPT, you're a reader of my thesis now. For example, my supervisor. How would you interpret this alinea, and what do you take from this alinea?
So you give the ChatGPT a certain role to take.
And then I ask him to explain what he's reading, what he takes from the alinea, and based on his output, then I'm going to check, okay, this is kind of what I wanted to say. So the alinea is probably correct, and then I can go on. It's just to put myself at ease that what I wrote down is also understandable and clear for a reader. Because otherwise you can rewrite your alineas endlessly. And sometimes that's not even needed. Yeah.
I remember when I was writing a thesis, or when I was writing anything, like essays and such, there were often these moments when I was sitting in front of a computer and with a blank screen of Word document, you have your heading or maybe a paragraph, and you just don't know what to write. Do you still have that problem, or you just ask your partner, ChatGPT, what do you think? How do you approach this?
Well, I think that never changed. Sitting in front of a blank page, just having my topic in front of me and don't know what to write down. But that's also, I must say, I'm very bad in free writing. I don't know if you did that, but I know some people can just, I already said, I make an outline on paper, but when I'm going to write it down in my Word document, I already want nice, concrete, and clear sentences.
So you want to know what you're writing?
Yeah, I'm very bad in like just free writing, blah, 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 blah. No, I don't like that. So sometimes I have maybe half an hour staring at my page. But I think for us, in that case, it's more easy to say, hi, ChatGPT, I'm struggling. This was the outline of my alinea. Can you maybe help me to even start? Or sometimes what I do is, this is my previous alinea. I prompted to ChatGPT. Now I want to talk about this and this and this in my next alinea. How can I start the first sentence? Like, how can I make a nice connection to the previous alinea? Because that's my main struggle. How do I go from the previous alinea to the next alinea?
So how do you make those transitions, connections?
Yeah. And I think ChatGPT can help with that. But yeah, I don't know. It's still a struggle, I think. I think that never changes.
Yeah, just like, okay, where do I go next? I'm curious here as well. Are you ever concerned that when you're using ChatGPT and you put the text in, that, oh, it will be obvious that I used it? For example, when I often generate text, it comes up with this like long dashes, the M dashes, right?
M dashes, yeah.
And I always have to remove those because I never use them. And I see it often in
LinkedIn.
Out of work. Yeah, LinkedIn everywhere. It's like suddenly everybody started to use those M dashes. Well, I don't even know how to use them grammatically. So how is it for you? Do you recheck the text or do you adjust it to make it not look so obvious? Is there something that even worries you?
Well, I think, and that's my opinion, as I already said, never copy paste of ChatGPT. Because I think then you're not using ChatGPT as a tool anymore. And I think that's a non-responsible way of using ChatGPT, because just letting ChatGPT generate a whole text, then you're getting the M dashes. But for example, I use it to rewrite or refine my sentences. And then, yes, sometimes it gives the M dashes, but I don't like that. I don't like the M dashes because it's true. That's related to the AI. But what I always do, as I said, I just prompt my own idea into ChatGPT. I ask it to make a sentence of it, and then I always combine it with my own ideas. But talking about that M dashes, for example, in my method section, I use an M dash. I say, to investigate the independent variable M dash, and then my independent variable N dash. Nowadays, I'm kind of scared that people are going to think that's AI.
Even though that was your work, that you made it yourself, right? It wasn't like generated. Yeah,
it's not generated because it's even something my supervisor, I think, proposed in my research proposal to use that M dash. She said that's allowed to make it clear like that. But nowadays, I think an M dash, as you already said, it's kind of related to AI, right? Like you're almost scared to use an M dash because you're like, oh no, maybe people think it's generated with AI.
Yeah.
But yeah, do you generate your emails with AI or sometimes get emails with M dashes in it and that you think like,
Oh yeah. I mean, I feel like sometimes you can really tell that the text was generated by AI.
Yeah.
I usually, for my emails and such, I only do the grammar check or so like a phrasing. I don't fully generate those. But sometimes when I receive email or I see some communication, I don't know, online or such, I can kind of see that, I don't think people write like that.
I'm talking to him.
Indeed, somebody talks to their ChatGPT colleague to consult. I wonder here, you mentioned your supervisor, and that's something I found, as I mentioned, fascinating, that your supervisor supported you and encouraged you even to use AI. How is that experience for you when you have a supervisor that is supporting that?
Well, I think, my supervisor is supportive, but especially because of the fact she sees it just as an important development in modern society. And she is supportive in a way. She makes me aware of which AI tools there are, but she also makes me aware of the limitations or concerns among AI tools. And she especially focuses and teaches me how to use AI in like a responsible way, in an ethical way, and also lets me consider is it useful to use AI in this task? Because sometimes it's not. Like,
so do I really need AI here?
Yeah, you can better do it yourself. For example, writing your results, where do you need AI for? Writing a code, for example, in your syntax, that's not really a good thing to do with the AI. So I think in that way, C is very supportive in that. And I enjoy that because I think it's very helpful for me as a student of being aware how to use AI correctly, because then it can be a tool for me to become a better student, to become better in writing and not lose my skills. And I think if you're maybe, I don't say that all students are using it wrong, because I think a lot of students are very well trained in using an AI. But I think if you're not, or maybe having difficulties in correctly using the AI, it's unfortunate that you don't have a teacher who trains you to correctly use the AI, because it can be very helpful, and it can also help you to become better in writing or become more creative or anything else, just developing your skills.
Yeah, because I think the use of AI, it's certainly a skill, right, that it can be developed. Do you see some differences also in your maybe fellow students or friends in terms of like their skills of using AI?
I don't know, like...
Or that's something maybe you don't see that much into, right?
I think seeing if someone has a skill in using AI, you need to literally stand behind them and see how they interact with an AI. And I think nobody is ever going to say, I copy-pasted everything from ChatGPT. No, I don't think. So I don't really have a insight on that. Do you see differences maybe in your working field among your colleagues?
Yeah, certainly. I think well, you don't always see that exactly because you don't stand in front of them. What I want to do now is, in preparation, or like just before we started this podcast, I showed you a list of memes that I Googled. I didn't ask AI to come up with memes.
That would be a fun idea, actually, asking ChatGPT to generate memes.
Yeah, about itself and use its use in writing. Well, you picked this one. So can you briefly describe to our listeners what this meme is about, and what's sort of like a story or experience or ideas it evokes in you?
Yeah. So I'm going to explain it as clear as possible, but it's quite a simple meme. You see two pictures on top of each other, and it says, my essay due in 5 minutes, with just a girl laying down, very like drained, I think, of power. And then like a superhero that says like, here, ChatGPT is coming. It's going to sort out your essay in like 5 minutes. And when I saw this meme, I was like, I think this is just an idea of ChatGPT that's not reality. I think ChatGPT is not able... It is able to produce an essay in 5 minutes. Of course, if you give it a topic and you say the amount of words you want, it can provide you an essay. But I think it cannot provide you an essay of good quality. Especially an essay needs references. Are you going to let ChatGPT generate your references? I don't think that's a small idea. Besides that, it's not your own work, because ChatGPT takes information from the internet. How do you know it's not copied from a certain article, or maybe you get caught for plagiarism based on that too? And also, what I said, you don't learn from it in that way. Like, my essay due is in 5 minutes. Yeah, okay, fine. But what if you have a presentation after that? How are you going to do that?
Yeah. Well, maybe you can ask, should I come up with a 10-minute presentation?
Me, this is not reality. Like, of course it can produce something, but it will never be of good quality.
Yeah.
And maybe, is this like a thing that you believe students do?
I mean, I have assumptions, and I've heard stories. It was more like a secondhand story, so I cannot verify it, that there were cases where students indeed just generated the whole thing, not necessarily like thesis level, but more like essay level, generated the whole thing more or less with AI, and it still passed. In some cases, I also hear stories from like teacher side that teachers had so like assumption or suspicion that this was the case in the student writing. Yeah. But I'm not sure how common those situations are. I think that's you must be not very self-aware students to do that. Just like, okay, write me thesis, this number of words, this topic, and then just copy paste this and send it. Yeah, because I think also students, like, you need to make changes, right, to an essay. Like,
I think the first version, maybe it's because I just have that free version of ChatGPT. I think it's not possible. Maybe I need to try the paid version. Maybe
you can do
I
that.
see this and then I'm like, yeah, it's good quality. But no, I don't believe it's possible. But also a question in my head, and I think it's also a discussion in universities nowadays. Plagiarism, for example. With an research article, you can check. Like if you copy paste or do not write a sentence or a paragraph in your own words and they check it, they see, okay, it's plagiarism. But how are you going to check that you did not write the essay by yourself? In my opinion, so by yourself, I mean generated by AI, right? But I think you can only see that if someone has a reference in their reference list that does not exist, because you also know hallucinations, AI makes up its own references. But how do you think universities can even see that it's not generated by AI? Because I'm sometimes scared, like, what if they think it is AI and maybe I get caught while it's my own work? Yeah. But what if someone has an essay generated by AI and they think, oh, it's your own work, it's fine. Like now we're in like a field where it's not clear, right? Is it the person or is it the AI?
Yeah, like how much was written by AI, right? Maybe it's like one paragraph or one whole section of your essay or thesis.
Because you have those AI scanners. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah, I've heard about those. I'm not sure how well, because the versions of the AI progresses so fast, it's not very reliable to.
Yeah, I don't know that actually.
To fully use them in a way that you are 100% certain this was AI generated. There might be some sign or suspicion, but it's not, foolproof. So
I also don't know how a checker checks AI-generated text. Yeah. Is it just based on the way sentences are built up?
As far as I understand, it is indeed based on the patterns that those certain models of generative AI produce the text, like the phrasing of sentences. AI has tendency to use some words more than others. But it's, again, not foolproof. And it just might raise like a suspicion and to start a conversation with a student about it. But it's not foolproof. So in that setup, I think it's like difficult to really be able to tell how much students use AI.
Yeah. And I think for a university, that's difficult to notice how much a student uses AI, but also for us as a student, like I'm aware while writing my thesis, like, oh, can this maybe be seen as AI? Well, I've written it by myself. Like sometimes the thought just goes through my head.
Yeah, what is that, like false positive, right, on a check?
Yeah, like it's very weird, but yeah, you didn't have that while you
actually had a similar feeling with plagiarism, right? Because there's also this check. I mean, I think that is still working well, where you check your thesis, and if you have like two long sentences that are same as somewhere else or similar to somewhere else, you get like flagged, right? A certain percentage of plagiarism. So I was very scared and mindful of that because I was, of course, I was paraphrasing a lot, but what if I'm just using similar words as somebody else?
Yeah.
So there's that concern there.
But I don't trust those checkers. Sometimes I assume that those checkers are just reading a text, and although you're paraphrasing, and for example, I have a citation, so you use how do you call these?
The quotation marks?
Yeah, the quotation marks. And then it's right if you also have the reference after that. Then you can just do a citation of something. But a plagiarism checker just sees that as plagiarism.
Yeah, because it's copied.
Yeah, but it's still right. So sometimes you have a very high percentage because of that. Well, it's not true.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
So I think there's a similar challenge is indeed with the checking AI as well.
Yeah.
But I've heard, the students, even with those checkers, you can find a way how to, go around it. You just ask AI, okay, rephrase it again, make occasional grammatical mistake, and you're adding those extra prompts to rephrasing that becomes more and more difficult to check.
Yeah, but I think we don't need to do that. We just need to make sure we're working by ourselves and use it as a tool.
Indeed. But you mentioned that it is concern of yours, right? Whether your thesis or your writing will be identified falsely as AI. Is there something you feel that universities could do or to sort of like better prepare or equip students to be able to be more comfortable, right? Or confident in the writing to know that, okay, this is how I can use AI and it won't be flagged or it won't be acceptable in writing.
Well, I think we're just going back to my concern, where my concern comes from. Like, I think you always had a concern about plagiarism. You always think like, oh, what what if it is? Well, I didn't want to do it. I think now, because AI developed more and more and it became part of our studies, and teachers are interacting with the AI more and also implementing it in the courses and just acknowledging the fact that the AI is part of writing a thesis, for example, there's also more attention to it. So, for example, we got an announcement on Canvas that said, like, okay, be aware of using Gen AI. We're very supportive of using the AI tool, like the ESSB. I'm part of the ESSB
So like your faculty said, okay, we support it, and these are the way how you can use it.
You're not obligated to use the AI. They said you don't need to, but you may. But you need to know how to use it correctly, responsibly, and ethically. And therefore, from the EUR, there's like a student's guide for AI. And also by submitting my thesis, I need to sign a statement.
Okay.
So it's like a plagiarism statement, but after that, they added a part for Gen AI. So then you check mark a box that said, did you use AI? Yes or no, I think. And then you need to explain how did you use the AI during your process. So you kind of need to explain if you used it correctly or not.
So there you would need to explain that I use it, for example, for literature search or to check grammar.
Or grammar, spelling, rewrite sentences. And also a part, or I don't know if you literally need to check that, but a part of the statement is that you went through the e-module of the EUR about the AI. So it's kind of like an obligated thing to do.
So you need to complete this e-module before you submit your thesis.
Yeah. And like that e-module is quite clear. So it gives you information about what is plagiarism with AI, why there is a cause for plagiarism with AI. But it also explains you how to use AI correctly, how do you use AI in a wrong way, what can AI help you with. So I think it already kind of supports students. It already gives you some guidelines how to correctly use the AI, for example, during a writing process. But I think what the university can do more, but I think that's quite difficult to do at the moment because we're just like at a starting point. We're all like, what are we going to do with it? But what I would personally like, and I would be in for that, like, by the way, if people are listening and be like, yeah, I want to do that. Like, for example, maybe a focus group, just go sit with some students who are really like motivated, just invite us and go talk to us and ask, what do you think students need help with? What do you think students need assistance with or guidance with? And I think it's important to include the AI in the courses. I assume it's already happening in some courses in my study program, that AI is going to be implemented as part of the course so that you're actively, learn how to use the AI correctly, because you also don't know how to write a thesis when you start your studies, right?
Yeah, so you have that support, right? From
and same as using the AI, we need to learn how to use it correctly if you want to make sure your students use it correctly. And I think that's what it's not that we miss that now, like you cannot expect that to be there, you know, same as with the internet. Like, it's not like,
it took some time.
But I think that can be very helpful. Just implement it into your courses, talk to other students.
So you're saying that there should be also like more dialogue or more understanding also from university of what students need or how students use it, as you mentioned with like focus groups.
Maybe not understanding, that sounds like we're not here or anything in the university, but I think we can help each other out.
It's more like a co-creation.
Yeah. Kind of cool. You can also do it with the AI, but we can also do it together. Maybe use the AI in the process. Just teachers, students, and AI.
Yeah, so those three subjects, teacher, students, and the ChatGPT or other AI
No, it's
tools.
just an idea.
I'm curious, as I mentioned before, I'm a bit jealous, right? That's the Gen AI was not there during my writing process. But when I talk to my parents...
Why are you jealous? For me, sometimes I'm thinking... And I'm like, what would I do if it was not there? Yeah. Maybe it was just also fun, you know, like...
I think it made the process faster, maybe a little bit less painful, I would say. I'm not sure painful is the right word, but more efficient. And I feel I could do that with that saved time, maybe do a bit more better job in a certain section or with a literature search or even with formulating certain things in a way that's sometimes it's in my mind, but I cannot fully verbalize it in a way as I want to. and the Gen AI tools can help me to find the right words.
Yeah, but I think efficiency, I also thought about that lately. Yes, it helps to work more efficient, but sometimes I notice during my thesis that the AI changes out of the blue. The day before, it told me, this is a nice sentence, but the day after, it tells me, it's a nice sentence, but... And then I'm going to doubt again and again and again. And sometimes, without even noticing, I'm doubting again about the sentence for maybe half an hour because the ChatGPT is proposing me alternatives.
Yeah, it creates this paradox of choice that is
and then I'm telling him,
by options.
no, what are you doing now? Because yesterday you said it was fine. And then he doesn't understand me. And I'm like, no, because now I'm like, it makes me insecure sometimes. And I had a time that I was just talking to ChatGPT about a topic. It was just like a general topic. I don't know what it was about. It was not for my thesis, but I wanted to learn more about that topic. I think it was of like time blindness, maybe. It's just time like it's just like a psychological thing. People that don't know time exists and it just passes by.
So you're not aware of the passage of time.
Yeah. I just wanted to learn more about that. And then ChatGPT told me, you're chatting for a long time now. Maybe it's time to take a break. I was like, oh, thank you.
So he cares about you.
Almost, maybe I'm time blind. I don't know. Yeah.
Maybe he tried to imply something from how often you communicate. So I was thinking recently, and I shared it with you as well, that if we look at the past generations in writing, right? My grandparents or great-grandparents probably used to write their thesis with like a pen, right?
Yeah.
My parents, they used the typewriter, the mechanical one we have to type. And if you make a mistake, you sort of like have to rewrite the whole paper. It was just like quite messy. So I already felt, even though I'm jealous, I'm still feeling a bit lucky to have, the Microsoft Word or whatever other tool to write and correct and adjust and to spell check and such. Of course, now we have a ChatGPT and other Gen AI tools that can help with that. But I'm curious, what do you see if we move, 20 years in the future, right? 2046. What do you think writing will look like then? Are you still optimistic about the writing, or do you think that it will not be as necessary to have the skill of writing, as we don't necessarily need to write as much anymore with hand, for example?
Especially with writing, I find it quite difficult. It's like writing in a sense of just writing down a sentence. I think there's a difference in just writing down a sentence or writing down a comprehensible and creative story.
Yeah. It's like, for example, article.
Because I think if you just want the AI to write like a basic introduction of myself, then you don't need to write anymore. Just give him the bullet points. He can write like a basic story. But I think to have like for example, if you're going to write a book, I think we always need human people. Especially like ChatGPT is trained, right, on data. Like then you're thinking, can ChatGPT really still think out of the box and produce a creative story? And I always think it's like kind of fun to mix it up with the human creativity, intelligence. And I think if you mix that up together, you can get like a kind of great and cool story.
Yeah. So I think still that the human inputs, this randomness perhaps, or the creativity.
Yeah, I think in that way it's very important. And I think the AI is looking at the AI from today, then we still need a human to write things.
But what if AI in 20 years can already...
Yeah, look at what it already did in like, what is it? 3.5, 4 years
Yeah, exactly. Now. So if you look at that progress, that might be... I'm wondering about this sometimes, like, okay, what are we going to do in that? If that keeps progressing, right? Maybe we'll stagnate here, we hit a plateau, nothing will change.
I think it can do anything. Like even in 2020 during COVID, like, by the way, like my mind just goes, in COVID, we did not have ChatGPT.
Yeah.
I cannot even imagine that we did not have it.
Imagine that there'll be a probably interesting period, right? Being locked down, like alone or like with very few people in an apartment, and then you can actually chat.
Maybe it would have been good for some people,
for
like if you were
well-being or.
Yeah, I don't know, but like even already in such a short time, it did so much, the AI. So I don't know what it will do in so many years. Yeah. I think we just need to wait. Just let it be. Just try and do our best to keep up with the AI.
And with the changes. It sometimes scares me to see like if the progress continues, what actually the future will look like. Also the future of education. where, as you mentioned, already AI helps so well with explaining things. Will we still need teachers if you can just simply have maybe the virtual holographic teacher that can generate better explanation that any teacher can?
Yeah, but I don't think that will be a good idea. And maybe it's because I'm how do you say that? Not sensitive, but you like a human has feelings and you can talk about certain things, and the AI does not have that. Sometimes you just need a hug, right? You just need to be with someone that tells you it's gonna be fine, it's gonna be okay, it's okay that you're crying right now. But the AI, what's it gonna do? Tell me to stop crying? Sometimes you just need a person, a human being
that you can connect with.
Yeah, and I think that's also very important in education. You're not gonna hug your teacher or anything, maybe. That's a bit weird.
So teachers better learn the hugging skills, because you get replaced otherwise.
Yeah, but I think sometimes after a lesson, maybe, and you're struggling with something, you go to your teacher and can explain what you're worried about or anything. And I don't know if AI can do that. Yeah.
Yeah, indeed. As we're moving towards a conclusion, I have still one question that I would like to ask you, or that I would like you to share with our listeners. So we have, of course, teachers, educators listening. What would be your advice of what teachers can do now, maybe within this year, so they can support students better in the writing process, as you are now going through right now yourself as well?
Ooh, that's difficult. But I think an important thing for teachers to do is, I think, look at the AI from have an open perspective, see yourself what AI can do as a tool, because it can help students develop their skills if it's used in the right way. So as a supportive or educational tool. And also, implement the AI in your courses and try to help your students to use it correctly, because I think it can do a lot for your students, especially in education. And go in a conversation with us, because I think we can learn a lot from each other and maybe combine our ideas and stories and maybe end up with a good idea with each other how to use the AI in education. So I think that are my main things, my main two things.
So what I mentioned before, more co-creation.
Yeah.
And if I speak for myself as well, more catching up with what is happening, or actually asking maybe students to help, can help with that conversation too.
I don't think it's catching up. I mean, we can also still learn a lot from our teachers, maybe, because they also, it's also very interesting, because a teacher knows how to write without the AI very well, because they published, and now they can write with an AI. So maybe they combine those ideas and teach us.
To share that insight, right?
Yeah.
How it can enhance your writing rather than supplement it.
I think they can help us that, especially with that, because they also have the skills to do it without an AI. We also still have, but we grew up with an AI beside us. We don't know anything else.
Yeah, so you won't be able to teach that anymore, but you need to get that information from the teachers. So we don't end up with the next generations that are fully AI reliant.
Yeah.
And there's still these basic skills.
True.
I think that's a nice message to end or conclude the podcast as well. So thank you very much, Gwen, for being here, for being enthusiastic guests in answering all of our questions and diving deeper into the topic of AI and allowing us to see into the student mind.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. I've really enjoyed it, and I hope the listeners did too.
And also for you listening, thank you very much for being with us until the end of this podcast. And if you want to hear more podcast episodes, we are on ur.nl/podcasts or on your favorite podcasts platform. And if you want to also see us, if you are not seeing us yet, you can also watch this podcast on YouTube. And lastly, if you would like more support on different AI tools, and using AI in writing, we're going to include links in the description of this podcast. So please check it out. And thank you very much for being with us. Thank you also for Community for Learning and Innovation of Erasmus University Rotterdam for making this happen. And I'll see you in the next episode.